Okpebolo. To what extent is he going to be able to make sure that he gives the Edo people the deliverables of his agenda? My name is Xavier Robert, and here on the program I have Stephen O'Day. Stephen, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Xavier. How are you doing?
I'm good. Terrific. You look good yourself.
Thank you. Well, as usual, on Niger Delta today, we'll bring you latest development happening within the Niger Delta region. Well, we'll kick-start the conversation. We're bringing you the news update. Don't go away.
Well, first on Niger Delta update today, we'll begin in Akwa Ibom, where the state governor, Pastor Moino, has officially inaugurated the 9.76 kilometers Ikodeyo Edemidum Okbot Biekene Norbong Ikontung East-West Road, located in Silubium local government area. Governor Moino, during the event, reaffirmed his commitment to advancing infrastructure development to enhancing economic activities in the state.
Very hard to ensure that we develop our local government as we develop Akwa Ibom. And by the way, there is no local government today in this state that this government has not touched. With roads, not one, I stand to be challenged. When we came into office, we worked with the Ministry of Works and said, give us roads across the local government areas. And so we identify roads in every local government area, and we have awarded contracts. I trust that by the time these roads are finished next year, we'll have baskets of roads to commission.
Well, let's turn our attention to Delta State, where the state governor, Sheriff Oborevori, says the state will not borrow to fund its proposed 2025 budget of 936 billion naira, which was approved at the 7th State Executive Council. Now, the bill will be formally presented to the Delta State House of Assembly today by the governor. The State Commissioner for Economic Planning, Mr. Sani Ekedayen, while briefing newsmen on key resolutions at the meeting held at the Government House at Sabah, said that the budget for the next fiscal year would be funded from statutory allocation. He added that the budget will also be funded from other sources, including estimated 140 billion naira from internally generated revenue.
Oh, upon our side to Edo State now, where a few hours after his inauguration as governor of Edo State, Senator Monday Okpebolo announced key positions to his new cabinet as he named Musa Ikilo, a lawyer, as the secretary to the state government, SSG. The governor equally named a former member of the House of Representatives, Dr. Samson Osagi, as the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. Governor Okpebolo also named Senator Adams Oshomole's son, Cyril, as the Commissioner for Health. All the appointments are subject to approval of the Edo State House of Assembly, as the governor is expected to forward the names of the commissioner nominees to the Assembly. Meanwhile, we can also tell you that the governor, Monday Okpebolo, resumed work today.
Well, in Bayelsa State, as part of effort to ramp up safety on waterways as well as harness its blue economic potential, Bayelsa State government will establish a marine safety task force and create economic zones to be known as fish cities. Governor Doyo disclosed this during an event tagged Expanded Stakeholders Validation for the Bayelsa State Marine and Blue Economy Draft Policy, organized by the State Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy in Yanagwa. The state governor said security on waterways is key if the state will benefit from the wealth in its maritime domain. Well, up next is the historical school, where we'll be concentrating. We'll bring you a review of the first civilian governor of Bayelsa State, DSP Debreye Alamiesiga. We'll go away.
But in politics, there is no neutrality.
The words of late Debreye Solomon Peter Alamesea, first civilian governor of Bayelsa State. Born on November 16, 1952 in Amasoma, Bayelsa State, and died on the 10th of October 2015 in Port Harcourt, Alamesea served as governor from 1999 until 2005. His tenure was marked by significant contributions to the development of Bayelsa State, particularly in infrastructure and education. Alamesea was a fierce advocate for resource control and the sovereignty of the Ijaw nation. His efforts laid the groundwork for increased attention to the needs of the Niger Delta region.
The vision is in education. He established the Niger Delta University and other institutions. Without education, you cannot prepare your people.
Known as the Governor General of the Ijaw Nation, Alamesea's influence extended from Ondo to Cross River. He championed the cause of resource control, arguing for greater local management of the region's vast oil resources. His advocacy was instrumental in the push for the 13% derivation fund, which aimed to return a portion of oil revenues to the producing state. This initiative has had lasting impacts on the economic landscape of the Niger Delta. As governor, Alamesea attempted innovative solutions to improve the lives of Bayelsans, including efforts to generate and distribute electricity without billing citizens.
The bridge builder has departed. It was not Ganoa Kasina for nothing. It was Ganoa Kasina as a sign of the bridges of understanding and solidarity that he and his friends and colleagues built to strengthen our nation.
He was a true champion of the people, always looking for ways to leverage the resources for the benefit of the common man. Dieprie Alamesea's legacy is one of passionate advocacy for his people and region. His efforts in pushing for resource control and increased derivation funds continue to shape discussions on federalism and resource management in Nigeria today. Dieprie Alamesea has been referred as the hero of the Niger Delta.
We'll now turn our sights on the conversations around civil servants in Akwa Ibom State and the promise by Governor Pastor Moino to pay 13th-month salary to civil servants in the state. Civil servants reacted to this. They had a couple of commendations to give to the governor and some concerns. Let's hear them.
Happy about it, but we are not surprised by that now. We started it last year, so we're sure definitely will continue. So we're happy. We thank God for the kind of governor that God has given to us in Akwa Ibom State. So several are excited about the development. As in fact, they are supposed the morale of the civil servants, and the government is going to pay that 13 months salary. And with the current ongoing verification, that at the end of the verification that we implement the new minimum wage, that actually boosts the morale of the civil servants.
If you check previous years, people were crying, lamenting about one thing and the other. But past 1 year from now, in terms of salary, before months end, even our president government not even allowed the month to end, maybe 2 days for month to end, the salary will drop. The few months, okay, last month and this month, the reason that things is shaking a little because of network issue. But salary have been paid, but networking in the bank transaction and whatever caused all this commotion of people crying about salary. But the rich salary already been paid into the bank. You understand? So there's no problem for that issue. Even as I'm talking to you, as of yesterday, a lot of people still receiving their alert because of salary issue. So I think if things still going on the way it's going on like this, the next 5 years in Akwa Ibom, everybody will sing glory all the time. You have never seen this kind of governor before. He's a man of fearings of God. No wonder he's a man of God.
I don't know if the salary will be paid before we go to the X months, but if they will pay us, it will be a happy joy. So I thank him for saying that he will pay it, and I pray that God will continue to help him to govern us well and also protect his family, protect him.
It's not a new thing. He has done it before, and I had known he would do it again. He's a good governor. As to how I feel about it, it's really relieving and comforting considering the yellow tide season that is coming. When the governor says 13 months, there are actually conditions to it. They don't pay you fully, like a full payment of the month. Rather, they give you the basic salary, which is assuming you are level 2 staff and you are earning up to 50k. The basic salary will not be 50k. The basic salary could be 30,000. The rest of the money added to make the salary could be consolidations, entitlement. So that's what the is.
Me personally, I'm grateful for the 13th month salary, even though that's what is obtainable anyway, because you don't expect, because where will he take the money from to give you a full salary of 13 months? You have to be considerate as well. So if he has shown the love of the father to give us half of our salaries to probably make up for the Yuletide seasons and all that, then I think that's a good one. He has done that, I think, twice. Or I think, yeah, he has done that before. So him being consistent in doing that shows that he has the interests of the workers at heart. So for me, I'm really, really grateful, and I pray God should continually give him the grace to do so. And I know in due time, maybe he might even give us a full one. So I'm grateful.
Well, let's shift our attention to the main issue for today. Now, the 135 million standard cubic feet per day diamond gas processing plant at the Aluminium Smelter Company of Niger, ASCON, in Ikorabasi, Akwa Ibom State, might soon be steaming with life again, as Nigeria signed a $1.2 billion contract with China National Chemical Engineering to revamp the gas processing plant. And the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas Ekpedikbeko, who made this announcement on X on Tuesday, said the gas plant is crucial for the production of aluminium in the country. Mr. Ekpedikbeko said the contract signed between CNCEC and BFI Group, the core investor in the Aluminium Smelter Company of Niger, ASCON, is the first step towards reviving the dormant firm. Now, this $1.2 billion investment, according to Ekpo, places ASCON back on the path to becoming a leading aluminium producer for both domestic and international markets, with an annual capacity of 300,000 metric tons. And in September, the federal government had announced plans to revive ASCON, stressing that when fully operational, the company would contribute to the nation's economy. Well, who better to help us do justice to this conversation than Dr. Wisdom Enang, who is a senior energy consultant and analyst. Dr. Wisdom, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Dr. Enang, for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, the ASCON conversation is not new to us here in Akwa Ibom State, especially. We know it's a national project, but a very, very long time now since it became dormant. Conversations has been around how it can be resuscitated, and moves that must be made by government to see to it that the GDP can also be contributed to through this particular project. But to what extent do you think that this new development is going to go a long way to bring back the glory of ASCON?
I think it's a very important step for the government, the step in the government's plans towards bringing back ASCON's glory. But the devil is in the details, because when you think about some of the things that have led to ASCON being in the shape that it is today, we need to reflect on those lessons learned. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves in a situation where we're running around vicious circles, right? A couple of the lessons learned is the bankability of the project itself, right? Do we have off-takers who are going to off-take the aluminium, and how do we, when we come in, at what price point do we come in, and how does that compare to other competitors? So the volume is one thing, the price point is the other thing. The other thing is, what is our maintenance culture once we come in? But even before all of that, let's go back to some of the important tenets to even make it work. Do we have the available gas to make this work? Because yes, we can talk about the fact that there are gas volumes. We have quite a rich reserve in gas volumes in the country. But how much of that gas has evolved from potential to produced? Because there's a lot of potential reserves. But there is a lot to unlock that. And do we have that sort of gas? So the last thing you want to do is what is going on with the LNG. We have a Trend 7 project. That Trend 7 project is above 70% of completion. But what do we now know? That we do not actually have the gas produced yet to run that Trend 7. And that's the biggest concern. Because right now, I would like to say that a lot of our gas production volumes are already earmarked. Either they're earmarked towards different obligations. For example, we have some people already producing the gas to sell. We already have the Nigerian gas flare commercialization project, right? And then we already have some quantities that we eventually still flare. Now, how much of that, and then we are also hampered by the fact that we do not have the critical infrastructure pipeline to commingle. We are talking about 130 million cubic feet of gas. That's quite a huge volume. That's not something you get. I mean, you would need almost something like a QIT in Eket to commingle all of their gas from the offshore to be able to get such level of gas. Do we have a critical pipeline running between QIT and that location? And do we have unencumbered gas volumes to power that place? Because what I don't want to do is say we develop all of these that we've done and get the investment signed up and it stops there. Of course, you know, every investment has what we call breakout clauses. That's why a lot of investments start and then they end up being, they stop at that point. They don't go beyond that. And you're wondering what's happening. Every investor will put in breakout clauses, which means there are requirements that you must meet for you to get the phasal, investments. And so they start with maybe 20% investment, they kick on and they watch. And if you cannot meet it, they cut off that investment. So the question is, do we have all the critical imperatives taken care of to ensure that ultimately, when this project starts, it will not stop halfway, and ultimately, when it starts, we will maximize the utility value of that project.
All right, Doctor. What if these challenges are surmountable? When this is achieved, how will this project benefit the Niger Delta region and the economy of the nation as a whole?
Enormously, it's going to benefit because what you're thinking about is we are trying to diversify the economy. We're using gas as the fuel or the transition power fuel. And that's really important because when you think about the whole problem that we have in this country today, it's the idea of rent seeking. We're only processing the crude to the minimum spec required and we're exporting it. But by so doing, we're only harnessing 15% of the value chain for what we do. And because we haven't gone into the downstream sector, the gas sector and the midstream sector, we have not harnessed 85%. So by doing this, we will then be establishing what we call a primary linkage from the oil and gas sector, which is trying to diversify the economy using gas. And then from there, other sectors will, because think about it, there will be service sectors that will need to service the ASCON. So a lot of things will move from there. From there, we'll even have gas byproducts that will be used by other industries on a smaller scale. So definitely there's going to be a lot of interlinkages between the primary, secondary, and tertiary linkages of the oil and gas sector, all to the benefits of the economy.
Well, the conversation has been around how significant revenue will be generated if the ASCON was supposed to be up and running again. Now, to what extent is the GDP going to be impacted? So let's say the aluminium exports were to be resumed and this place was back up and running.
I mean, I can't put a number, but I think it would add significantly. And I'll say that, and I'm talking almost at least $500 million worth of profits is going to be made from that. And much the benefits of Akwa Ibom State, because when you think about it, you're not going to produce from, say, Akwa Ibom State and then start thinking about shipping all of that to another state when we have the water frontier. So it makes a better case for us to have a functioning port. Because if we're thinking about large-scale production on a level that you can export, then we're also thinking about developing, I keep saying, the critical infrastructure to support that. Because again, I keep saying, right from cradle to grave, if you look at the beginning of the market where we have the feedstock, all the way down to the final product, we need to find a way to get all that value chain equipped and then to be able to evacuate the products and maximize our profits.
All right. Well, we have also spoken about the issue of how the locals, especially here in Akwa Ibom, are going to be affected positively, that is, if Alscon were to be back and running. We've talked about the issue of employment, to what extent it's going to provide direct and indirect employment to Akwa Ibom citizens and indeed Nigerians. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. There's a number of things that we can expect, right? We've done very well in the service industry in Akwa Ibom State. We've done very well in the oil and gas industry. But when it comes to manufacturing, right, we've done the syringe, we've done flour, but we haven't still gotten a handle of it, for example, the way we would love to. Now, if ASCON works, it's going to create a model for rolling out manufacturing-based businesses in Akwa Ibom State. That's the first thing we need to know. And that's going to be a sort of a template to roll out subsequent one. I mean, with these re-attempts that we're having. Then the second thing is this: it's going to create a lot of a lot of businesses are going to have the right of first refusal to be able to serve in the ASCON, provide services. So that's good for Akwa Ibom people in terms of the businesses. It's also good for the people because of employment. In terms of revenue to the government, that's even huge. Because think about it, it's domiciled in Akwa Ibom, taxes will be paid. And if it works and we're able to provide, as a state government, we're able to provide the right imperatives for it to function and flourish perfectly, then you can begin to think about that some of the people that have gotten licenses for different manufacturing or production would come. For example, Bois has gotten a license in Akwa Ibom to come in and build a refinery. And those are things that will spur them up if we're able to show that this is one of the most attractive industrial hubs in the country. All those people that have dormant licenses they haven't operationalized would then be encouraged to come in.
Well, Dr. Enang, we have always known that Nigeria and its leaders usually often come up with very lofty ideas and policies, and this is not the first time we'll be hearing events of this nature coming up. We've talked about the Port Harcourt refinery and conversations around how it can come back up running. And now we're talking about ALSCON and a deal that has been signed. The issue is always, how is this going to materialize? And to what extent is this just lip service? Okay,
that takes me back to a previous point I made. I said, you need to look at all the tenets that leads towards a decision that we call a final investment decision, FID. Before you look at an FID, you're looking at what is the scale of the market that you're trying to serve? What is your access to the market, right? That is the critical infrastructure required to take it to market, meaning we need a port here. You're also looking at what is the financing structure, right, to sustainably finance it. We're also looking at the feedstock for these. And I told you that there are still areas that we need to flesh out. Otherwise, like what you said, it's going to be a case where we may end up triggering a breakout clause. I told you, every investment has a breakout clause. If you don't meet those terms, they truncate the investment. We've seen it happen in so many times where there was funding for a particular project and then the funders pulled out midway. So Brass LNG, for example, the funders were there, fully funded. And midway they said, look, we don't think this thing meets our criteria, and they pulled off. And I'm telling you, the deal breakers for this particular project is going to be the gas. If we cannot guarantee the feedstock, it's going to be a problem.
The gas processing plants that they've talked about resuscitating, how does that affect this?
Yes. If you have gas and your gas is only what we call a potential reserve, you haven't found a way to bring that gas into the areas that you need it. You have a gas perhaps in QIT, and maybe that gas is already encumbered on a different deal, the Nigerian gas commercialization deal, for example, right? Then you may have yourself finding out that, okay, you have a project that needs gas, right? And you do not have free available gas volume. And for you to create that gas volume, you need to go into the production of a different well. And that means another 5-6 years of trying to develop a field to bring in the right gas. And so if we do not have the guaranteed gas volume, then we've got a problem. The second thing is if you to identify two critical issues that could happen, if you do not have the export facility, for example, if the federal government does all of this and you do not help Akwa Ibom to develop their ports, support Akwa Ibom to develop its port, right? The Ibom Deep Sea port, we're going to have a problem. Because then what you're going to say is that you're going to add to the unit cost of that product by saying it should be taken by maybe vehicles down to Lagos and then shipped from there. So those are some of the deal breakers, because what that means is you have a product with a unit cost that has been inflated, and that product cannot compete in terms of price point with other alternatives. And then there's no need, nobody will buy a cheaper, more expensive product.
All right, Dr. Wisdom, let's look at the issue of electricity generation, because I understand that this project was also designed to generate electricity. So to what extent can this project contribute to power generation in the country if it is fully, operational?
A lot, because, let's think about it. It's a gas plant, and typically gas plants run by consuming their own feedstock, right, to produce. It makes more sense. You don't want to drive such a plant with diesel. And what that means is that we'd have enough spare capacity, not to power Nigeria, but the region. Now think about it, the federal government are thinking about that. One of the ways they're going to solve the grid collapse is by creating regional grids. So not having a central grid per se, but creating regional grids. And that is being backed by the Electricity Act of 2023, which then means that people, right, governments can go ahead and the regional areas can create their own electricity. So ultimately, when they build that plant, you'll find out that there's some capacity that they need, but there's also some spare capacity that they can then send into the regional grids. And ultimately, you find out that once that has been done, energy needs in Akwa Ibom is not that huge. That should take care of a huge chunk of Akwa Ibom's energy needs.
So, Dr. I'm talking about diversification of our focus on oil, which of course has been a conversation that has been at the front burner. Well, civil society organizations are saying that Akwa Ibom particularly should explore ways to diversify, move away from oil. We've talked about it for a long time. And then look at other areas, for instance, agriculture, tourism. To what extent do you think that we've overflooded the oil sector? And what are those potentials that we have as a state and indeed as a Niger Delta region to diversify and look for other means that we can make money?
Oh, thank you. I think, looking at the past, administrations, we've seen that there's been an effort to diversify, and there are different challenges that we have come across as a state at different points. Some have worked, some have not worked. For example, as I said earlier, the manufacturing aspect, we haven't done so well. There's still some lessons to learn. And by the grace of God, now that we have the Electricity Act, we can then produce our electricity and have more reliable supply, and we can control the pricing as well. The second thing is the Ibom Air, for example, has worked. The Ibom Air project has worked. So now, what we need to do as a state is go back and look at those projects that have been attempted previously. What are the lessons learned? Why did they fail? I'll tell you something that I learned during my PhD. A lot of people write about their success stories, so much so that people in their research papers don't tell you what failed. But that's the most critical information, because that forms part of the lessons learned. At this point, I think there should be a special team within the government looking at what each administration did and why it failed. Doesn't necessarily mean you are trying to witch hunt anybody, but you're trying to learn lessons so that you can see, have the factors that created that failure, have they changed? Is there anything different? But thinking about potentials, there is enormous potentials, and we are seeing it. I'll give you context. Tourism is one of them, right? And even when the only recipe that we have to attract tourism was very good roads, We have state-of-the-art hotel facilities, and we also have, the peaceful ambience. I see people come on Ibom Air, they come in for their annual conferences, and then they come in and have a feel experience of Akwa Ibom State, all right, and enjoy that tourism experience. And let's see what can happen if we can get, for example, different add-on value like the beach, get it ready. We can get other tourist sites developed. And so people can come and say, we're coming for a retreat. I've had, for example, the NCDMB in the petroleum sector, they've come 3 times for a retreat in Akwa Ibom State. And they keep telling me that those were the factors that attracted them when I asked. So that is an area we can do. Then for agriculture, I think we need to I've read the Arise agenda extensively. It has a lot of things that can rebirth the agricultural sector. Farming clusters, getting that we have, different support groups for the farmers, making sure the inputs are there, organizing different buyers, and then helping to set up a cooperative society to manage all that interface. And then giving some sort of tax credits to the farmers, giving the farming inputs and all of that. Those are all things that are going to unlock those possibility, but we have to do a lessons learned. And I'm going to just end by saying, let's look at what happened when we tried a coconut plantation. It failed, but there were some lessons learned. And if we can understudy that and leverage on the research capabilities of our universities, because we need to domesticate our research. If we don't domesticate our research, then we will not prefer innovative solutions to our problems.
Well, I know that my colleague has some inputs to make on this issue, but then just before I let her, how dangerous it is to rely on fact as the federal allocation, especially in this time of our national lives that we found ourselves?
It's not a good thing, because I think we've come to a point where there are a lot we think we can unlock as a state, and it's not. You see, the way you look at the way the undulations in terms of the federal allocations, when it depends on the exchange rate, it depends on how much money we've gotten and all of that. It's not something you want to rely. You want to build your own, state economy. And we've had people that have dared to do that. Look at how much the Lagos state economy has grown, right? And so it is something we can do. And even if we, get the federal allocation, we can complement it. There's nothing wrong. And then we're even talking as a state about the Sync Fund that looks at storing money for, exigencies and all of that. I think that's where we can do well by getting in our own internal generated income.
All right, Dr. Wilson, before we continue, we have this conversation between Ipman and the Dangote refinery. But before we continue, let's lay a foundation for this particular discussion. There is this back and forth between the petroleum marketers and the Dangote refinery, and continues as regards to the modus operandi for acquiring products from the facility for onward distribution to end users in the country. And the most recent development would be the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Niger, which has secured an agreement with Dangote refinery to lift product directly. Now, Ipman's national president, Abubakar Garima, announced this at a press briefing on Monday in Abuja following a meeting of the National Working Committee of the association. He said the partnership would ensure a steady, affordable supply of PMS products nationwide. It is only normal to seek to understand how this is going on. Well, let's look at the significance of this agreement and how it will contribute to, development in the Niger Delta region.
Right. I think it's going to help with supply, make sure that there's adequate supply. But in terms of pricing, I think my biggest worry is the fact that there seems to be more of an agenda by the Dangote refinery to make sure that any checks and balances in terms of pricing, whether it be the imported variant or any other person, is being shut down, basically. Because there's a statement that was made by Dangote refinery saying our neighbors by the door next door are blending bad fuel, and then Pinnacle Oil came out and said, look, that's not true. That's not the case, because that's obviously referring to them. There's also been this fight to make sure that there is no importation, saying that they're substandard fuel. And I've said it before that if the country says the sulfur limits are 50 ppm, and Dangote does 10, if the imported variant is 30, then of course the imported variant is substandard to the Dangote, but still within the requirements. Okay. So it is important for us to state that, to always know that. Otherwise, it will be skewed towards the fact that the narrative that it's substandard. But the question I'd like to ask is, even in other climes, PMS is usually the highest. There are different, kind of grades of fuel, and even in other climes they're sold there. So people have the option of whether they want to have PMS or the premium one, or there are other variants that they would love to have. That's the first thing. The second thing is this: if you look at the whole Dangote situation, for example, you find out that the whole appetite for profit has been benchmarked against the international opportunity costs. And that's the biggest problem. So you and I, perhaps, are not paying for the added benefits of internal refining, where we should expect the price to come down. Of course, the crude is sourced in Naira, right? But then, what are we paying for? We're paying for a company to benchmark its export appetite, right? And we know that, because what we expected was, when the Dangote brings its crude, its PMS in, and we did not expect that the international refiners are going to obviously just allow him to take a market that they've owned for many years. We expected a fight back. And I'll tell you one of the tools. One of the tools is simple. When you're doing processing of crude feedstock to produce PMS, you can blend and have different feedstock. So the Bonnet Light that we produce in this country is one of the most expensive, even more than the WTI variant in the US. You can actually blend even the Venezuelan grade of crude, and that's cheaper, and still get your PMS. Okay? So what I expect that the competitors have done internationally is to go and get cheaper blends of crude, blend them together and use it to produce a cheaper source of PMS, still within our requirements, which makes the imported price to be cheaper than the one that Dangote is producing.
So the end users will not benefit from it, the pricing, won't it reduce?
No, it's supposed to reduce, if not that the Dangote is taking everybody to court that could undercut the price. And that's what I'm saying, that free market system should not only be where we cherry pick whatever works for Dangote. It should be where we allow variance and the consumers get the best of both worlds.
Dr. Nang, that brings us to the issue of monopoly, and it is still at the front burner. But we have reactions as regards this Ip Man story. This one comes from, he calls himself DEI. He says, for how much? If they allow this monopolistic Dangote to succeed, Nigeria will pay for it, as indeed we are already paying. Ip Man must fight for a competitive market. That is from DEI. We also have another comment, a reaction from Owuzechi D. Caleb. Is of the opinion, just watching how it will translate to lower price in real term, not theory. Another reaction is from Aibogun.
It says it's a welcome development. The impact will be felt, but it will be positive but minimal. At the end of the day, Ip Man is also a middleman in the chain. And like NNPC, it also fits fat on the consumers of these products. However, the real way out of all this is local refining. That's according to Aibogun.
Northerners says the price of petrol at the pump could decrease as Dangote and Ip Man have signed a deal to source petrol, diesel, and kerosene directly from the Dangote refinery. Hopefully this will bring us some relief. Amen. There's another comment from Bodunde. Bodunde says, I hope the pump price will crash now as promised by Ip Man. Well, the comments, we can't exhaust all of them, Dr. Enang. The central message, all of them are pretty much saying similar things. They are hinging on how price can be reduced. I mean, the conversation has been about how we can crash this price and make it affordable for common Nigerians, but it's as if the dream gets taller by the day. To what extent can this aim of crashing the price of this product be achieved?
Thank you. If you look at your basic price point equilibrium. You find out that you have your demand curve and the supply curve. And demand is quite straightforward. It's whatever the Nigerian people are looking for, although there has been a 90% drop in the consumption level. So that's the demand, well, there. Now, what we need is more options for supply. Local refining is a source, but I'm looking at the immediate. The other options that we need is, okay, yes, we have local refining, but in lieu of that, how do we make this? Is to allow that competition, whether it is international or local, let the two compete. And I have my reasons. I just told you a scenario where international refiners can leverage on that scenario and be able to get us a PMS at a cheaper price, right? And I can tell you the Dangote refinery can fine-tune and get a higher operational production efficiency that will allow him give us a cheaper unit price for PMS. If these price wars happen between the international and the local, local producer like the Dangote refinery, will find out that it would come to the benefits of the average Nigerian. Because remember that the average Nigerians are not just reducing their PMS consumption, they're beginning to transit into other forms of energy, solar and CNG.
Okay, Dr. Ena, we'll take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to take you on another very important issue, the issue of methane emission and how we can regulate waste management in the Niger Delta region. Do stay tuned. Niger Delta Today continues right after this timeout.
Now here's some exciting news. ADBN is everywhere you are. Stay connected with us across all our social media and streaming platforms for exclusive news updates, captivating stories, and more. Join the ADBN community today via our various platforms on Avo TV app, ADBN channel 121, Niger TV app, ADBN TV, Limex World TV app, ADBN TV. Get the latest news straight to your phone. Join our WhatsApp channel. Just search for ADBN TV and hit the follow button. Turn on your notification to stay updated and never miss any part of the experience. Stay in the conversation with us across our social media handles on X at ADBN_TV, Instagram at ADBN_TV, Facebook ADBN TV, YouTube ADBN TV_NG, and keep visiting our website on www.adbntv.com. Watch us live anytime, anywhere. ADBN TV, a part of you.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Well, the issue of methane emission. Stakeholders and experts at a workshop held in Port Harcourt, River State, are calling on the Niger Delta governments to intensify efforts to curb human-induced methane emissions, warning that these emissions are increasingly threatening the region's environment and public health. Well, Dr. Enang, I'd like you to come in here. Now, methane emissions, we've understood that this can, in a way, generate power. That is the aspect I would want us to tap into. The waste products that we generate can actually be a form of power for us. To what extent is this feasible in this part of our region?
Yeah, it's very feasible. But when you think about, one of the questions I asked, earlier on, I said, look, even water, for example, hydrolysis, you can produce power at the tail end of it. Because of course there's hydrogen there. Once you get out the hydrogen component, you can power your vehicle. And I asked, why is the world happening? This was when my first year in university. Why is the whole world still talking about fossil fuels this much? And they said, because there's what we call energy economics. Energy economics looks at what cost do you actually produce the energy? Yes, technically, it is possible. But at what cost? And at what volume? So it's like a tripod stand. You have the energy type of energy, the cost, and the volume, because that tells you how commercial it is. But can we do methane capture and use it to run, do some, powering things, yes, we can. How much will we produce and how consistent in supply would that bring us? That's the question. So technically we can. But sometimes the easiest thing to do is just to do a capture and then find a way to take it away instead of releasing to the atmosphere.
Well, Doctor, when the stakeholders met in Port Harcourt, there is this issue. They suggested that I think biogas digesters can be used to convert this waste into energy. How does this work?
Yes, the biogas digesters is just where you try and put it in the absence of trying to digest the whole waste product in the absence of oxygen, and then you produce a very huge amount of methane. But that comes down to the scale. At what scale are you operating? Let's take an application of biogas digesters in India. They're used for cooking. They're used for producing enough gas to cook. So it would take a lot of animal dung just to cook for 30 minutes. And basically, after that, you repeat the entire process. So they're not typically where you go for large-scale energy needs. Okay. They're meant for regional energy needs that are not quite large. But speaking of, we also have the solar. So the solar will be a better way to get energy than the biodigesters. Yeah.
Dr. Wisdom Enang, Senior Energy Consultant and Analyst, many thanks for making our time to be with us here on Niger Delta today. We really appreciate your ideas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Wisdom.
Well, we will turn our sights on some politics, bring you what's happening in Edo State. The governor, Monday Okpebholo, has resumed office today, and you remember that during his speech at the inauguration, he mentioned 5-point agenda for the Edo people. To what extent is he saddled with ensuring that he fulfills his promises and brings his blueprint to life? Just stay tuned.
Step into the heartbeat of the world, where news meets real talk. From breakthroughs in diplomacy to humanitarian challenges and scientific milestones, Global Digest takes you beyond the headlines and straight to the heart of the matter. I am Ama Marcus. Be a part of the world's unfolding stories at 3 p.m. on ADBN, channel 258 on DSTV, and Star Times, channel 140. Global Digest, your window to the world's current affairs, only on Advocates Broadcasting Network.
The global business is never static. Watch the market report on ADBN TV for business information, latest happening business deals, government economic policies, stock, crude oil and commodity trading, financial upstick and downstick, and the world of organized private sector. The market report showing on ADBN TV 1 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. The market report, bringing you up to speed in the business.
In a world of overwhelming voices where everyone has different opinion on different issues, it is important that we bring the core issue to the fore. Join me, Nancy Banigo, on Softline as we lend our voices to inform and influence your thoughts and actions. This is not just mere talk, it is an invocative program that touches the core of our existence.
Our traditional institutions shall be given the necessary support to play their roles as custodians of our rich cultural heritage. It is in recognition of this that my administration shall support the decision of the federal government to uphold the Oba of Benin as the exclusive owner of the returned artifacts that were looted away by the British colonial forces during the Benin massacre of 1897. Recall that on the 17th of June, 2019, 14 members of Edo State House of Assembly were denied inauguration into the seventh Assembly. It was a big blow to our democracy. My administration is setting up a panel of inquiry to investigate the remote cause of this incident.
Edo State, central to this progress, has elected a leader who sees beyond the present, a leader who knows the true needs of the people, from hospitals and schools to the roads and infrastructure that carry hope into every community. Senator Pebolo has committed himself to building the Edo State you envision, a place where jobs are plentiful, where education is accessible and strong, and where infrastructure is modern, and where healthcare is within the reach of every citizen. He understands the dreams of the people and has a vision to bring those dreams to life. I stand before you with confidence, knowing that we have weathered the hardest days as a nation. We have pulled back from the brink of economic collapse, and now we step forward into a time of growth.
Oh, that is the inauguration of Mondo Pueblo, Edo State governor. Well, the 5 points agenda of the governor included the issue of prioritizing security, infrastructure, healthcare, food sufficiency, and education. And the governor also spoke very loftily about his decision to wage war against criminals, saying the era of incessant kidnapping and other violent crimes was over. Another issue, Sifan, that catches my attention is, of course, the issue of the points made by the committee that was set up by the administration of Pueblo to tackle the issue of unaccountability by the outgoing administration of Asaki, and talked about the issue of local and foreign debts, which must be accounted for, and that all employment carried out in recent past should be cancelled. Why should employments be cancelled? Amen.
All right, terrific. When you look at it, elections is over, he has assumed office. The issue of accountability we should not throw into the trash can is also important. But at the same time, I think he should start first, concentrate on the people, see how he can get the people's attention, address their basic needs before he delves into the probe and other issues. Because for me, this might end up stalling, developments. But first, let's look at the people first, and then we delve into, the probe and trying to make people accountable. And when you're talking about accountability, it should not just be as if it's like choosing a particular set of people to, draw the attention.
A lot of eyes will be on Edo State for a very long time to see how Pueblo will interpret his promises for the Edo people. We are always here to keep you abreast of all these information. You have been watching Niger Delta Today on ADBN 258 DSTV. You can follow all our activities on all our social media platforms, all of which you can find on our website, adbntv.com. My name is Xavier Robert, wishing you a terrific afternoon. Sifan.
And I am Sifan Odebe. We'll leave you with this music by IT Dennis. I can't thank you enough. Thank you.